election
All right, so let's
boomerang.
start off with Punch. Now, the returning officer for the Adamawa State governorship election, Professor Mohammed Mele, on Tuesday declared Governor Amadou Finitri the winner of the state's governorship poll. Now, that means he secured a second term in office, having scored 430,861 to defeat his closest rival, the APC's Aisha Dahiru, popularly known as Binani, who had amassed 398,788 votes.
Let me put it this way. Eku 31,000. Let me say it again. Eku 31,000. It was 31,000 vote difference that created this boomerang, that created this drama, that created this Adamawa uh, election season 2. I mean, it doesn't get more dramatic. It doesn't. It doesn't get. It doesn't get more. It doesn't get more dramatic than. It doesn't get more dramatic than what happened across the Adamawa State's elections, and some of us by now are well aware of the drama. However, let's state it back. I mean, there was a tightly run election in Adamawa as of when other states were running, because 69 polling units, the margin of lead by the PDP, that's the incumbent, was not more than or was less than the number of council votes it pushed for a supplementary election, right? Now, that supplementary election is given just to confirm that truly indeed the person did win. Now, just as they were collating which the results which took place last Saturday, about the time they're about to finish, they had agreed at the collation office with the returning officer that they will come back by 11 a.m. on Sunday to finalize and then get the results of the election. However, unknown to many, and like a what I call it a bad sequel to a series, the wreck in Adamawa. That's what's his name now, because we need to put his name out there. Um, Yunusa Ari showed up with some of the officials, and that was 2 hours to the time that was agreed by everyone, the party agents, and declared the APC candidate, that's Binani, the governor elect. Now, this was done in complete violation to the INEC policy, in complete violation and usurping of the powers and the process of INEC, because it wasn't in his place as the rec to make the announcements. It was a place of the returning officer who couldn't do anything in that position. Now, a lot happened in between that time and now. And basically, what happened was immediately at that point, while APDP was in outrage, um, INEC issued a quick statement from Abuja, that's the head office, stating that that announcement was null and void, that they had summoned the rec to Abuja for questioning. PDP then came back and was like, okay, every party should calm down, but they were protesting that INEC should do the right thing. Well, let's call it that this, in a way, has ended in some level of INEC trying to fix the mess of its own staff. And hereby they came back because they had suspended the collation. So they came back yesterday and finalized the collation, of which brought the PDP back as the winning governorship elect. That's the incumbent, Fintiri. And like I said, the difference was about 31,000 to the APC. Now, you see, it's not just about how the drama ends. It's one, what has happened? Why have we gotten to this point? INEC has asked, they've reported the rec, the airing rec, to the presidency because of the way the INEC rules are established. And those are issues that we need to check, because I know our playbook does not include when key officials default. But the truth is, we must ensure that accountability, responsibility, and consequence is applied to everyone, from the lowest person in rank to the highest person, all the way up to the top. Secondly, to the extent that an officer or someone of that high caliber, that's the rec, could take such a illegal action in broad daylight, brazen, without any regard as to the implications. Now, some people say, okay, well, that this is not entirely new, that if you take a look at what happened in the presidential election, whereby despite the protest on calling for a review before the announcement of the president-elect, the INEC chairman, who was the returning officer for the presidential election, still went ahead and asked everybody to go to court. In Enugu State, you had a case where the returning officer told everyone that, look, my hands are tied. The result I'm announcing is from Abuja. You had a case in Abia State where the returning officer said, despite the pressure and everything, I'm going to announce the truth of what's before man and God. And that was how Labour won, because for the past two elections, the same thing had been happening. And in which other states? In River States, we clearly saw how, despite the protest, locations where elections did not take place, announced results were being announced. Is this the kind of election that we want to say that we are having? Legitimacy is going to be an issue. Such things, we're very lucky as a nation that Adamawa people were very, what I call it, calm, because in other instances, such actions could have thrown not just Adamawa, but other parts of this nation into some level of instability.
Right, next story comes from Punch. Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola has launched a 5-year strategic plan to drive the country's internal security. And Lakunle?
Right. Can I start?
Yes, please.
Right. Okay. So it's better late than never, so that we are thinking up of a national strategic plan for internal security. But for purposes of revisionism, let's look at it this way.
Really, what?
Revisionism.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear.
So let's just revise it a little bit. So Nigeria has been independent for 63 years now, in October this year, right? So in those years, we have never thought of a strategy for internal security, and that has what, because according to that report, that is what it suggests to me, that we've never had any. So in those 63 years, we never had any. So all we've done, according to strict balance, is anywhere belle face. We have the NSCDC, we have the immigration, we have customs was removed from interior ministry many years ago by the military and put in finance because of the money. We have the police. The police is supposed to be part of the interior ministry. It's been moved. It's a standalone on its own now. So it suggests to me then that we have just done things in a way that suits the person that's the power that's able to make those calls in all those years. Okay, so now let's fast track to 2015 or 2014. This current outgoing government tells us, I promise you change in everything. So it is taking 8 years in 40 days, thereabouts. This government leaves office. So how is it then that we waited 8 years minus 40 days before we arrived at the point that we are now realizing that we don't have a strategic plan? So let's go back to where I started from. It's never too late. Government is a continuum. Hopefully that now we have thought it up that we should have one. Then we'll be able to do the right things. Because let me quote why I said all the things I've said directly from the report. The minister was said to have said in that report, from records and information available, it has shown that the ministry had operated without a strategic plan, no synergy to direct or synergy to drive internal security. So that is what has brought us to where we are, 63 years of no plan. And can we say this has also been the same thing with every agency of government, that every government comes and starts afresh, and nothing has been done continually? And these are the things that we need to start thinking about. We should stop personalizing governance. We should make governance about the institution, about what is good for the country, and not what I think will have my name written on it when it's done, for whether good or bad, because that's what we have seen is happening to us.
All right, let's go on to the next story. This one comes from Daily Trust. Now, Nigeria's commenced the process of unlocking over 3.3 trillion naira, and that's about $7.2 billion. Project Aviation annual contribution to Nigeria's GDP. Hmm.
Okay, let's just put some context here. Aviation, as you know, is air travel, but it's not just flying in planes. There's a whole industry that is mapped around the movement of persons and cargo via jets. Now, the Ministry of uh, of Aviation has been working with the various agencies. In this case, the NCAA, you have NAMA, you have some of the rest. And what they were doing at a current conference, the DG, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Musa Nuhu, was unleashing a roadmap that would unlock about 3.3 trillion. That should be coming to the GDP. That's the contribution to the GDP. That's about $7.2 billion. Now, if you calculate that, about 7.2 billion over our 450 billion dollar GDP economy gives about 1.5%. Now, so they're looking at instances whereby um, the use of the Embraer jet around Nigeria. They're looking at the fact that aviation should be contributing about or should generate about 800,000 jobs, with 60,000 directly linked to airline operations. And let me just factor that in because that's actually what people need to understand. Whilst you have the airline operations, which is those who work at the airports, those who register people in and out, ensure that the flights are maintained, and then the jets are maintained, those who are working on behalf of the agencies. Um, and you also have airline workers, airline operators and their workers. You have a composite industry because for every airport, you have not just the aviation workers, you have facility management workers, you have IT service staff, you have facility management staff, you have hospitality staff, you also have what do you call it? Accounting people. I mean, it's like a whole industry with every other sector plugged into it. And in some airports, if we go by the plan that Stella Dua had some years ago, every airport was meant to be a mini city with all manner of business and industry taking place. Now we're just even speaking about people's movement. You also have the cargo movement. Now among the aviation industry, some airports serve dual purposes. They move persons and some move cargo. And in some airports, they don't move persons, but they just move cargo, like the airport in Ogun State. And you know how choked up Lagos is already. And part of the reasons why Lagos is choked is because the bulk of both persons and cargo travel passes through Lagos. So just like Lakunle said, the last story was about strategy. The question is, will they implement it? So here again, whilst we have introduced this to the world that we want to make good, let me put it this way: I want to take with a pinch of salt that the aviation industry in this country, that's through the Ministry of Aviation, is going to implement this because our problem has not never been the shortage of plans, but how we implement them and how we make good the opportunities that are granted to us. Up till now, we're still discussing the concession of the airports, something that should have been done, dusted, gone away with. By now, we should be counting revenue and earnings from what we would have gotten from such a business. And for those who travel, I'm sure you're dissatisfied with the warehouses in the major airports, Abuja, Kano, and Lagos, that was built with 500 million US dollars each by the Chinese, of which we are meant to pay back. If that's how we're going to go about this strategy.
Mm.
Hmm.
All right. Let's go on to the messages we have coming through via WhatsApp. If you'd like to get your thoughts across, it's 0809 4440981. Abbas says, why do we always try so hard to discredit processes because of issues in certain places? We brought in issues of legitimacy whenever it has to do with certain people, but look the other way with some others. The electoral umpire cannot tell candidates or parties to fight because they are disgruntled. The only thing to do is to approach the courts to seek redress. This played out not only in states won by the ruling party, this played out not only in states won by the ruling party, but we find ways to condemn the wins of the ruling party and hail that of the other parties. Bayelsa, Zamfara, Rivers, and Oshun are examples. Yinka Bolu says, I don't understand the meaning of 5-year internal security plan by the minister. This is a man who, under his supervision, we recorded the highest number of prison breaks. What has he done to mitigate against that or its future occurrence, or anyone even found wanting and punished? How about he launched a 5-year plan to revamp the prison or correctional systems?
Very apt.
Let's take a quick break. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Oh shit. Yeah, 464. So I was waiting for this 7:40, 7:30 close on Monday. And that's not a story now. After election, it came down. It's going back
Exactly
up.
750.
So yeah,
Yesterday,
750.
somebody said, I
So it's
wanted to
going
buy
back up.
something. Said they sell in dollars, but can I pay naira? I said yes. Okay, how much should I pay naira? They use 750 to calculate for me. Yesterday.
So not so much a story.
So in essence, they make more money.
Oh,
The person who is selling to me
makes money like
is make more money now. He sells to me at 750.
Yeah,
But because he's going to get his exchange back from CBN at 430.
that's
So
if he
it's
gets.
$2.
No,
instead of
that's
$1
even if
from
he
me.
gets. He may not get.
He will hold
So
it
it's
and wait.
luckily he can receive both. Some cases they won't be able to receive now.
And that's why his discount is 100%, and I'm the one paying.
All right, we're going on.
Yeah. Can take story 7 after this.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Our analysts this morning, Lakunle and Devoe. You can also let us know what your thoughts are. We love it when you interact with us. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live as well. You can catch the live stream up on our YouTube channel, Smooth981 FM Lagos. We're going on to Punch. Now, the National Industrial Court in Lagos just this Tuesday ordered the reinstatement of the operations of the Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria in the state and nullified the state government's appointment of a caretaker committee on transportation.
We recall that sometime last year, or was it in 2021, the Lagos State government banned all the activities of all related road transport related unions, NURTW, Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria, and National Association of Road Transport Owners, and replaced them with a self-appointed what did they call it again?
Caretaker?
Caretaker Committee on Transportation. And one must commend all the unions for not taking law into their hands, for not fighting on the streets and all that to or make a protest of it, and they approached the courts. Right, this is one of the unions, the Road Transport Employers Association, that went to the courts. And for me, like I always said, that our constitution and our laws can only get better when we challenge some of these things as we have seen. Now, the National Industrial Court has said that it is illegal for the government or governor to have banned them and replaced them with the caretaker committee because they are a union. Don't forget, it has violated their constitution giving rights of freedom of association, so long as the association is within the law, right? So they got, and it's also a message back to people in government again, that you don't arrogate some of these powers to yourself because the constitution does not give you that power. That somebody had done it in the past and got away with it does not mean it is the right thing to do. The only place where you can where justice can be served no matter what happens is in the courts. And this is what the court has also said here when it said the government should have got the police involved rather than ban or suspend the union over a fracas, as it claimed that it was the reason that they banned them in the first instance. So we are in a democracy. We are not in a dictatorship. Nobody has that power to sit in his house and because he can say that you must not go out of the house today because I want to use the road, or for whatever reason it is. We need to be circumspect about how we make pronouncements. We need to be careful of the precedents we set. So this one, I'm glad that the courts have stood by what the constitution guarantees everybody, their freedom of association. And then the ball is now back in the court of the Road Transport Employees Association to go back to their responsible and constitutional rights to of freedom of association and to do business in any state in Nigeria for that matter.
Let's go on to WhatsApp. Fabian says, I wonder what made what made INEC act in the correct manner regarding Adamo as the person in question, just take a cue from what other officials had done in the past. There appears to be a sudden burst of activity in the outgoing government, which hitherto had gone at a snail's pace for most of their administration. That message is from Fabian. Let's move on to Vanguard. Yes, Vanguard. The Coalition for Women's Participation in Governance and Leadership has threatened to take legal action to halt the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly if women are not considered for presiding officer positions in the Federal House of Representatives and state assemblies as well.
If you're a lover of women, you would be interested in this story, as I am. Unfortunately, despite the over 110 million women, 200 million person population in Nigeria, they have had the least of representation, especially in leadership around the country. I mean, we're just talking about the Adamoas scenario. Even though we wanted a woman, Benani, to have been the first elected female governor in the country, obviously we didn't want it to come through any illegal or unconstitutional means. Now, in this situation, the coalition of women are threatening legal action against the inauguration of the 10th Assembly, that's the National Assembly at the Federal House, if diversity and inclusion is not considered, meaning if women are not considered for presiding officer positions. You're speaking of the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, the clerks, the Chief Whip, the Majority Leader, the Minority Leader, committee chairmen. And you know how powerful these committee chairmen are. And they're saying for their presence in the country, they are obviously being marginalized. They're demanding a review of the 5 gender bills, if you remember, in the last assembly that were rejected. I mean, the truth is, right, they've also asked the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola, to give women equal opportunities as he promised in his campaign. Now, the problem here is this, right? And I say this because Nigeria has shown that it has no regard for women. And why I say this is because it in this day and age, in the 21st century, representation for women, when you talk about diversity or gender balance, is not meant to be a debate. It's meant to be a deliberate action. So I'll take reference from the JJ government. They ensured that 30% women were represented in their cabinet, in their federal appointments. So what this women group is saying should not be a debate at this point. It is the party, that's the APC, the ruling party or the majority party, that is meant to show that, okay, we have respect for it, therefore this action we are taking. Two, it has to even go beyond affirmative action, whereby you just say, okay, I'm giving positions to women just to be able to meet up. No, there must be deliberate actions to ensure that women play their rightful roles under legal constitutional means and not with the Adamawa example, to ensure that at the end of the day that our women take their rightful place. The UN has said it, and I think it's been proven for those of you who have women working with you, that empowering a woman increases the GDP by times 4, right? At any point, whether you empower a woman who is educated or even a woman who is down the ladder, you are increasing the GDP because of their capacity, because of their capacity to multitask, because of their ability to bring out positivity through stress and strain. I mean, why would we have all this capacity and leave it, what's the word? And leave it moribund? There's something wrong with the men in this country. And I have to put it out there. There's something wrong. There's a missing screw with the men in this country, that you have this capacity of women, over 100 million, with you. And yet, you can't give them the rightful place to be able to even help in the development of this nation. I'm not resting my case, but we have to go.
Well said, Devoe. Let's go into the WhatsApp messages coming through. Henry says, take it or leave it. This Nigeria is the only country I know that plans to fail. Whatsoever plan or project they embark upon, the target is mostly to loot and the project abandoned. And let's see. Abbas says, one wonders the kind of dust we would have raised if Binani was in a different party. We would have given her the same measure and sympathy like we have done so far for some candidates that lost out in this election. We know where we stand on issues and are yet to tell ourselves the truth. All right, so we have about a minute to go, and let's get into this next topic. And this one has to do with, well, the veterinarian seeking support to curb transboundary animal disease.
In one sentence, so that we don't overshoot the time. I think that much of the answer to the questions or the request by the chief veterinary officer of Nigeria lies with him himself. He's the chief veterinary officer for the country. It should not be the one asking government for help. It should be the one providing the help for the country, because that's his job. Then, secondly, let's take a look back at the National Livestock Transformation Plan, the document, the one that we raised a lot of eyebrows to some couple of years ago about how we want to actually treat livestock in Nigeria. So if we go back to that, where he spoke about residents breeding of animals, ranching, and the rest of it, if we go back to that document, more than half of the problem that's been raised in this report will be solved. And in a country where we have multiple exits and entrances that are undocumented, where somebody's house is in Nigeria and the backyard is in Benin Republic, how can we really police our borders so that we can stop the transborder and boundary diseases that are carried by animals and that kind of thing? It always brings when I see things like this about Nigeria's borders, I always remember the conversation we had one time with a former Japanese ambassador to Nigeria that says that if the country Japan occupied the area where Nigeria occupies today, they would have fenced it all round. I think that that's something that we should be thinking about in Nigeria, don't you? So it sounds outrageous, yeah, but it's an allegory of how serious we need to take our policing of our borders, not just about animals alone, but about everything.
All right, one last message from Devoe. He says, when we have examples of women like Stella Adua and Dezani, it does make Nigerians think twice about female empowerment. It's sorry, but sad. Well, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your messages. And thanks to our analysts, Lakunle and Devoe as well. Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
First bang.